Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode. As I continue my series on Ukraine and the current war, let us find out the lives of ordinary citizens, ordinary business, and the corporate life in Ukraine at the moment, 3 months after the war has started. Today, we have with us George Vyshnya. George is the co founder of several software companies in Ukraine. George is currently the CTO of Astra and SPC, both of which he has co founded. At the moment, George is operating his business from Ukraine along with his employees. Let us find out how life is like for them right now. So thank you very much for coming here, George. A very warm welcome to you.
Thanks, Jaya.
Wonderful. So first question is, currently, where are you operating from in Ukraine? And how are you running your business in terms of where are the employees located and are they able to come to work, or how is it running?
Well, we are a small company, and at pre-war time, our residence was in Kyiv. So we had a small office there, and we also worked remotely. So that was a kind of a combination. When war started and the Russian invaders came closer to Kyiv, we launched some safety plans to help our employees to escape. And as a result, guys relocated to western areas of Ukraine. And most of the team members are in Vinnytsia area now. It's like 250 kilometers from Kyiv. And as we used to working remotely, we just picked it up, and in new locations, we operate remotely, doing both daily activities, customer meetings, and delivery.
So everybody is working from their own locations, and you don't have an office at the moment, right? Am I right?
Yes, that's correct. But I do pay a rent to the office in Kyiv because the landlord of that facility runs a huge army support campaign. And so my finances help them to help the army.
Oh, that's very interesting to know. Can you quickly tell me exactly how you're helping that? How you are helping the army?
Well, so first of all, I donate some money to, let's say, charity foundations that purchase ammunition and other things necessary for army. Then my next kind of involvement was donating money to, let's say, my friends and people whom I know to help army. And one of them are my landlords whom I rent the office from in Kyiv. Well, obviously, I also try to buy some ammunition and I was involved in two transactions for Kyiv territory defense battalions to provide them with some television systems and so on.
So where do you buy your ammunition from?
We are importing that from abroad because that kind of equipment is not available on a great scale here. So many things like that can be purchased from Poland, Germany. So I personally work with some Polish-based suppliers. So and also I work with charities who have legal license to, let's say, supply that to army detachments. Because me as a private person or even a business entity is not authorized to do that legally and directly.
when you say you are not authorized, means you can buy it, but you have to sell it directly to the army in Ukraine. You are authorized to do that.
No. I don't have a privilege or a permission to do that. So typically I sell something and then I hand it over to charity or volunteer groups who, let's say, have opportunity and have license to provide that to army detachments.
I see. Very interesting to know, because all I knew was you are basically a software engineer and who is running a few software businesses of your own. And it's great to know that you actually have a separate interest and a knowledge in another area, which is perhaps very crucial to your country as well.
Thank you.
Wonderful. If you could briefly tell me a little bit about the kind of business you do, your regular business, software business that you do, as well as where are your customers based, and how is business really going? Are they able to have trust in you to deliver, or are you able to garner new businesses, etc.?
Mostly we are operating in data engineering, data warehouses, business intelligence, and machine learning and artificial intelligence type of software. So our customers are mostly international companies sitting abroad. So some of our customers are US based, some of the customers are European companies from Germany, from Poland, and some other European locations. And you know, I should say it's not just specific to my company. Many Ukrainian companies got quite a high profile from their customers in terms of their satisfaction, and therefore you could see
during the war.
Sorry?
After the war started.
Well, that happened before war, but
Okay,
after
right.
the war, that translated in, let's say, big level of trust and big level of customer retention. So instead of customers saying us, okay, guys, you are at war, we like you, sorry, but we have to secure our things. They told us, okay, if you can secure your stuff, if you can relocate your people to safer areas, then we are more than willing to start new engagements with you, not just extend existing engagements, but start the new ones. And by the way, the nice statistics that I checked as of the beginning of April says that 77% of Ukrainian companies, IT companies, expect to have new contracts this year,
Wow.
despite the war.
That's amazing. And how are you in terms of delivering your work? Are you able to do it completely as normal as before, or?
Yes. Because, you know, we work on the customer premises or via cloud premises mostly. Yes. And so it is secured. And as you can imagine, this is located somewhere in Europe or somewhere in the North America, and it is not hit by the war. And as soon as we are safe physically, and as soon as we get internet connectivity, we can securely connect to those premises to, let's say, resume our operations as usual.
Well, that is one side of it. The other side is the employees being in a mindset to work and to do as much as they were doing before.
You know, that's sometimes that an issue, and actually I must say that happened in the very first days and couple of weeks since the war began. And from that standpoint, first of all, we let our workers to be a little relaxed, to make sure they go to safer place, they reaccommodate, reestablish their operations. And also the customers were supportive to that. But anyway, we didn't stop delivering even in the late February, even in early March when that happened. We never stopped delivering.
That's wonderful and very inspirational. Thanks very much for sharing this. My next question is, so tell me a little bit, how was it from December as the war seemed impending? Did you really expect it to happen? And once it started, how was the experience leading up to February? And when it actually happened in February, how was the experience of the employees and you? And at any point, were you thinking of fleeing Ukraine?
You know, you know, uh, the war was kind of expected because, you know, frankly speaking, the war didn't start in February 2022. This war started 8 years ago as Russians invaded Crimea, and also as they started offensive in Donetsk and Luhansk areas. So it started back to 2014. And also, you know, the nature of current war between Russia and Ukraine is a sort of a post-colonial thing, because Russia still tries to treat ex-Soviet Union countries as their colonies. And so their sentiment and mindset is to return it back under their umbrella. So the war should have happened sooner or later. So we had kind of a mindset that it would happen. Obviously, when it happened, it still was kind of, you know, wolf effect, because like 2 days ago, it was a peaceful city. You could have a walk, drink some coffee at your coffee break, etc. And then suddenly missiles started to strike your city. So that was definitely a change, but at the same time, we were kind of ready. And you know, my company and my team is quite small at the moment. So we just decided to relocate to safer place. Bigger companies who had, for example, 1,000 plus employees at the moment had to undertake more complex contingency plans. So they established new corporate facilities or extended existing corporate facilities in big cities in the Western Ukraine, like Lviv, for example. So that was still a change for the entire industry and people involved in the industry. But at the same time, you know, we were ready. We were ready to see something like that.
Did it not occur to you to leave the country because it's so unsafe?
You know, first of all, I'm a male, and potentially I'm in the military reserve, not in the direct military reserve, but let's say fourth or fifth wave of. And so males of military reserve age are not legally allowed to cross the border. And so it happened that my team is now consists of males only. And so we stay in Ukraine and we try to deliver value. And at the same time, we try to help army on the other frontiers. But definitely, for example, companies who have male and female mix in their teams, especially bigger teams. I know some companies established relocation of some of their people to Poland, to Hungary, to Czech Republic. But that mostly related to female population of the crew.
Tell me a little bit, do you have any presence of your company or your relatives in Mariupol, places that were hit, Kherson or Kharkiv?
You know, no, we as a business, we operated from Kyiv, and we haven't, let's say, have any business ties to either Kharkiv or Mariupol. But the situation there is quite tough, and you could think about Kharkiv as one of the top 5 software development centers within Ukraine. So it was one of the biggest locations prior to the war. And many IT specialists from Kharkiv had to relocate westward. And for example,
Russia took it over. Was any of it left in Kharkiv, or was it all beforehand you knew and you had shifted it over?
You know, the big fraction of civilians had to relocate from Kharkiv, although some civilians stayed there. And also, you know, what happened to Kharkiv? Many civilians turned into militants. So you can imagine this city was like about 1 million people, and they staffed 2 brigades of militants solely from people who lived there. And so they joined regular army forces to fight the battle for Kharkiv. And now you might have seen latest development that Kharkiv is, let's say, the battle for Kharkiv has been won by Ukrainian army.
Yes, yes.
And that was, well, the contribution of those civilians to that victory is imminent.
Very inspirational. It is actually a lot of surprise. Nobody knows exactly which way this can turn, because there are so many unexpected things that are happening. So that's really fascinating to see. I would like you to tell me quickly, how have life changed for you, day-to-day life, in terms of what you're able to get in supermarkets, people around, how they are behaving, etc.
You know, as for this, let's say, daily supply of food and necessities, it was surprisingly good. So, you know, I spent, let's say, I spent some time in Kyiv before March 17th, and then I relocated westward. But I must say that even at the most dangerous time for Kyiv, which were original couple of days of the invasion, we had some original panic. Some shelves of the shops started to got empty, but then city governor and let's say, management council organized supplies very well. And so starting maybe early March, there was no any kind of shortage in anything in Kyiv. And the same happened to major locations to the west. Obviously, cities like Mariupol or Kharkiv experienced worse problems because they got to see Russian invaders much faster than, let's say, Kyiv, and they had less time to prepare for that. But overall, I must say that management, public management, tried to do its best to reapply.
Keep the supply going.
Yeah. And also, you know, that what happened, that humanitarian aid from Europe and other countries started to flow into the country, and that also helped a lot to protect and secure the life of people. Because for instance, in one of the late days of February, I saw Romanian bread coming to Kyiv supermarkets, and then rearrangements happened, and Kyiv-based bakeries started to operate properly.
Great. What
Also,
about the female people of your family? Are they still in Ukraine? Anybody has had to think of leaving because of the dangers?
my family is located in Ukraine currently, not in the battlefield areas though, so they are all safe, but nobody left the country so far. But some families of members of my team really relocated. For example, one of my developers has his wife and his small children evacuated to France, and so she works for a big international company and she continued working there.
Yeah.
So for a while that happens.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, what is your observations? The people from the war-torn area where Russia has occupied, are you seeing a lot of influx of refugees not refugees, people who are displaced coming into your side, and how are they being treated? How are they finding their lives and their footing?
There is more than 7 million of, let's say, internally relocated person across Ukraine.
Yes.
And so definitely you can see that in every safe place.
So
for example, here in Vinnytsia area, I see a lot of refugees. I also have strong connections with Lviv, and you can think of Lviv having maybe, Lviv was around 700,000 people before war, and now it is at the age of million people. So you can think about 300,000 people arriving here from eastern locations where the war clashes happen.
So has there been temporary shelters and the supplies to them, their food?
Yes. It's all organized. So there are some volunteering organizations who help them. There are a lot of, let's say, private civilians who volunteer to arrange for that. For example, I have a friend of mine who is a film producer, kind of an artist guy. So he lives in Ivano-Frankivsk. This is one of the regional center in the Western Ukraine. And so his daily business now is to receive refugees from Mariupol, Kharkiv, and other hot places, and find the housing and provision some supply for them as they got accommodated there. So, and this is just an example. Guys like him are numerous in the country.
That's really the part I wanted to know, that how have the citizens really stepped up to becoming very responsible people who are doing something very special and extraordinary in these circumstances. I actually wanted to ask you this, that what you have observed around a kind of crisis management, special and extraordinary story of crisis management, if you have seen around.
Well, my major exposure was to, let's say, business-centric crisis management. So if you compare that with bomb shelling some areas and having to arrange something under the bomb shelling, it is less crisis, I would say, but still. So, for example, what shall I tell you? One of my ex-colleagues, we used to work in the same company for maybe, let me calculate, 14 years ago. And now he is an owner to his own IT company. And so major delivery center for that company was Kyiv, like in my case. And so he was able to organize some bomb shelling based facility where people could have good internet connection, and they worked from the shelter for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
Uh,
I mean, these
and
are
also
important stories because that has kept Ukraine running, because you have to run your economy as well.
Yeah, you pick the right point. So IT industry remains one of the few operational industries. And so the influx of tax payments, influx of revenue into the country is facilitated through the company. And so to some extent, we see that as our military duty or paramilitary duty.
Actually, that's a fact. I mean, to keep the country looking like business is normal, that is a huge part of keeping the country alive.
Absolutely. But I should say, even in IT, we feel the friendly shoulders of international community who wants to help the Ukraine. So, for example, let me step aside from my business into the area of cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm.
It's now not a commodity because cyber field is the battlefield now. And Russians were quite notorious at plotting very sophisticated attacks. But then the interesting fact, you do not see major interrupts to banking systems. We can work with our banks normally. We can pay our bills. We have no interrupts in atomic electrical station operability or other critical infrastructure like railways, heating systems at all, electrical grids. And that's because cybersecurity is at very high level now, because Russia keeps attacking that infrastructure. They do not stop doing that, and they didn't lose their skills. So they do it at the same level. But you could see defense to become much stronger on our side. And this is because state companies involved skilled IT professionals from both inside the market and from international companies. Because now, for example, Microsoft, Cisco, Thales, ESAT, this is a Slovakian cybersecurity software company. They really help our critical infrastructure companies to defend and protect their infrastructure. So this is also yet another fact of how international community and people of goodwill help us to win that battle.
If I may ask you, in the, God forbid, in the event that this actually continues for years, this Russian invasion a little bit by, where do you see your company and how do you think you can operate, or do you have any plans of making any quick exit?
The current forecast is the war to extend through the early next year. But definitely nobody knows for sure what happens, because there are so many things are moving and so many things are in
surprises, so very extraordinary things happening all the time.
Yeah, so for me the escape strategy is to place my people in safe places, which is still western areas of the country, and deliver. So this is my strategy. It is easy because my team is small. It is less than 10 people at the moment, but that's something that we are going to execute. And also one more point here is many companies had to start pessimistic at growing their headcount.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I would think so.
And this affects, first of all, junior level positions within the industry. And so in my case,
are you able to recruit people in this environment? Are you able to recruit new junior people?
Well, I can definitely, because there is a big supply of junior people in the market now, because companies had to squash their junior level positions, unfortunately. And, you know, if we talk about bigger companies, like someone having 500 plus people, they execute different strategies. For example, some of them try to build their offices in Europe to start hiring people there. And actually, in my case, we also have some ground in Poland for that. But still, you know, this strategy, although it is quite instrumental, it has its own limitations because of, let's say, labor market limitations of those countries. There is a lot of existing IT companies, for example, in Poland or Czech Republic, that already absorbed the big fraction of personnel. So
for you are quite confident you will continue to stay there and continue to operate from there.
Yes, at least machine learning division and the data engineering division will stay here for a while. And I do hope we win the battle in the eastern Ukraine to start moving country back to normal. Obviously, the industry forecasts are variative at the moment. So some companies report expectation for 5 to 30% growth. In turn, bigger companies like real giants of the industry who have 1,000 plus employees at the moment, they report of some, let's say, shrinkage of their contracts and business in Ukraine, because, you know, they work with really big state enterprises from abroad, and those companies have very strict security policies. Yes. And so I heard of some companies, of some big clients like big international banks or big insurance companies, requesting to move their operations and their services from Ukraine to Central European locations, for instance. And so companies who run this business have to reopen facilities or extend their existing facilities in, let's say, Poland or Czech Republic to accommodate that requirement. But at the same time, I must say, many, even big companies, still trust in Ukrainian locations. The only thing they ask from vendors is to make sure their stuff is available online and their stuff is in secure places where no war clashes happen.
So your telecommunications has not got hampered at all, right? Your
absolutely. Sometimes Russian hackers try to attack international provider infrastructure, and from time to time, some of the providers are affected, but that is quickly repaired, quickly localized and counterattacked. So I must say, I hadn't experienced any internet outage, significant internet outage, whether I stayed in Kyiv or whether we relocated to Vinnytsia area.
And your current customers are based out of Ukraine or elsewhere?
No. Our customers are based internationally. Most of them are in European Union, some of them in Northern America, but the majority of the customers are from European Union at the moment.
Very good. I would go to my last question, which is, where do you see Ukraine's future from here? Do you expect the war to end? I guess you expect the war to end soon. Once it happens, how do you expect it to rebuild? Is there anything that was wrong before that you want to be put right, or anything that was very beautiful before which you want to enhance, or any new ideas? Because a large part of it has got destroyed and it has to be rebuilt. So give your idea where you want to see it.
You know, in order to answer this question solidly, I need to make a kind of, let's say, retrospective point. So Ukraine, as a post-Soviet country, had a lot of Soviet heritage, unfortunately. Even 30 years from starting its independence this time. And the second thing, we had quite a big handle on corruption. And I think attacking those two problems, like reconstructing the country without Soviet heritage, and it means for everything from architecture to institutional setup of the local.
Remove the Soviet architecture as well from your country?
Well, you know, if you think about Mariupol and Kharkiv, the majority of architecture of those cities were Soviet-style architecture. It is destroyed. And when we renovate Mariupol, when we renovate Kharkiv, we will have to build something different. And that wouldn't be Soviet-style architecture anymore. It will be something closer to Irpin, Bucha, those novel cities that also suffered from Russian invasion. And also, I think the role of telecom and IT industry will be even more serious in the country, because what I see from my connections and communications with the industry executives, there is going to prepare a pool of venture capital flowing into the country for innovative IT solutions. And so I think that would help to, let's say, keep this industry running and keep this industry growing. Because, you know, from 2021, from 2022, the industry grew at about 40%. That was enormous growth. Definitely war will make it slower. But then we have a potential to come back to that speed. So these are like my hopes, but you know,
I mean, hope makes it happen. So I want more people to tell what they're hoping for.
Thanks, Jaya. Thanks for this opportunity to communicate with you and with your audience. And I really grateful to share the word of appreciation to the support that good people from around the globe share with Ukrainians.
It's wonderful. Actually, that is my motto, that more people start talking about the peace and hope and the possibilities in Ukraine, so that this war end soon. People want this war to end soon, and people look forward to a new future in Ukraine.
Thanks.
Thank you very much for joining us today, George. And may all your wishes about Ukraine come true.
Thanks. And the same to you. Be happy, healthy, wise, and
Thank you.
prosperous.
Thank you very much for the interview.
Thank you too.